80% of English learners stop studying prematurely, meaning that they stop before they've actually learned all the things that they need to achieve their goal. So we're going to look at 3 signs that you have already learned enough and can confidently stop studying. However, if you have not experienced all 3 of these signs, then you should not stop. There might still be more things that you need to learn in order to reach your objectives. So Thiago, what's the first sign?
The first sign I would say is you have been already immersed in an English-speaking environment for at least 2 to 3 years. And when I say an English-speaking environment, I'm talking about an environment in which you are actively listening to English and using English for at least 5-6 hours a day. Maybe you are living in an English-speaking country. That could be considered that. Or maybe you are like the members on our team who work fully in English. So if you are in any of those situations for 2 to 3 years, that could be a sign that you might consider stopping studying deliberately and just living your English.
So would you say that anytime someone is already working in English 4, 5, 6, 8 hours a day, that means they don't need to study the language anymore?
I like to be conservative with that. That's why I said 2 to 3 years, because in my case, I got a job in 2006 at a call center, in which I spoke English 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. But right after that experience, I started teaching English. And my first years as a teacher, I was also studying still, especially preparing the classes. When you prepare classes, you have to study to teach the classes. So I think it was only after 3 years, combining the call center experience, 1 year plus 2 years teaching every day, that I started to feel like, okay, I think I can let loose a little bit more now, let go, and just work and use the language every day.
That makes sense. Teaching is one of the best ways of learning. The reason I asked that question is because we actually were inspired to create this lesson because we had a burning question from one of the learners on our channel who said that they have this dilemma that they're working already similarly, I think, in a call center, and they're not sure, should I keep studying? Is there still things that I need to learn? Or is the fact that I'm already speaking every day for work mean that I'm good, I got this? And by the way, if you're watching this or listening to the podcast and you have a burning question, you can comment it on YouTube, or you can shoot us an email at hello@reallifeglobal.com, and we'd love to get your question and possibly teach a lesson using it. It's always great inspiration for us. But I'd be really curious to hear the other 2 signs, because my answer for this person would certainly be it depends and several other things. So I think just the working 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day alone isn't enough to say like, yeah, you've made it. You're done with studying.
That's true, yeah. How long you have been doing that also counts. And what kind of work is that? Who are you speaking English with most of the time, right? That also counts.
Is it always the same script? Like, you might be very limited in your fluency. Like, you're really good at talking about this certain type of hardware that the company uses. But if you have to talk about what you like to do as your hobbies, you feel completely a lack of confidence in doing that, then it's certainly you're going to need to study other areas.
Are you enjoying the lesson? Great. This is just a small bite or clip from the full lesson though. So if you want to listen to the full experience, make sure you do that on the Real Life English app. Link in the description, download the app and listen to the entire episode over there.
So what's the second sign?
Take a look at the level you are at right now and which level you want to aim for. Coming back to my experience, after I started teaching, I got my C1 level certificate quite early. It was in 2008. So that was about 4 or 5 years after I started studying from scratch English. I got my C1 certificate. After that, I stopped completely, like studying deliberately. I was just living my English and working in English. 9 years passed. In 2017, I was working at a different school now, and the coordinator actually suggested taking the C2, right? And then I started to think, okay, that might be interesting, but that was 9 years later. And then I said, okay, I'm going to go for it. I didn't take it right away. And then I came back to studying. I actually bought a course book for that level, for the C2 prep course, and then I spent a semester studying for that C2 level. And then in December 2017, I did the test and I got it. So It depends on the level that you want to go for. If you are already at B2 and you are content with B2, you don't see yourself maybe striving for C1 or C2, then you can stop and you can just live your English. Yeah, consume content, speak any chance you get, but you don't have that rigid routine of studying. Or if you want to go for C1 and you get it, you take the test and you realize that you are there, then it's okay. So I guess the level is a good determiner for that.
That makes a lot of sense. I did the same, that I had pretty fluent Catalan. I was probably at a comfortable B2 level. And I just realized that it wasn't cutting it anymore, that I knew I was making mistakes. I'd never really studied the grammar. So there was a lot of uncertainty that I had around, do I know if I'm speaking correctly? So I decided also to study for that. And it was a really great experience because I had just learned by exposing myself to the language, watching TV series, listening to music, and this was my first time really getting my hands dirty with the nitty-gritty of the language, the grammar, the like connecting phrases and stuff like this that I hadn't had to learn, and becoming a better writer in the language. All of these were things that I was pretty green in, I was pretty new to. So I think that it can always be a great idea to study for one of these exams if you're kind of stuck in a plateau, because it can help you to shake you out of that and to push you to achieve a new level. But I would say too, like since then, I've lost a lot of what I studied, because the writing, for example, my writing improved a lot, but then I write emails sometimes, but I'm not using it professionally. And so I don't have many opportunities to write. And a lot of the things that I learned for being a good writer in Catalan, I've lost. So there's the whole, you don't use it, you lose it sort of thing. So you might need to come back to studying again. I might need to come back to studying again some things that I learned in preparation for that exam, because over time, not using them, I've lost them.
That is so true. You used a couple of nice expressions there. First of all, you said that at a certain point, your level of Catalan, you felt like it wasn't cutting it anymore. What does it mean when something's not cutting it for you anymore?
It means it's not good enough. It's not fulfilling your needs. And because I was living here and my partner's from here and have family here and everything, I was like, I need to have the same level that a high schooler, someone who's graduating high school has, right? I need to be able to speak as well as the average Joe Catalan, I guess.
Average Joe, that's nice. And you also said that you were pretty green.
Yeah.
What does that mean when you're green?
You could say you're ripe means you're mature, right? Mm-hmm. Like a fruit. Mm-hmm. And when you're green, it means that you're naive. You don't have experience. You have not ripened yet.
Right. That's cool. But you see, what you just shared, Ethan, about feeling like Catalan wasn't cutting it for you anymore, and then that's when you decided to go for C1. That could be the third sign. Because the third sign is, are you content with your current level? Or do you feel like your current level is not cutting it anymore for you? For example, if you feel like, okay, I speak English every day, I work at the call center for 8 hours, but I'm still using the same words all the time, or I feel like I could be doing more, I could be improving. If you have this feeling, then by all means, keep studying, even if for a moment, for 6 months or for a year, because it depends also on your level of contentment. How happy are you with your current level?
I would say too, to look at it not just as I need to study, I don't need to study, but as seeing yourself more as a lifelong learner. So you might be more actively studying for an exam at one point. You might be more doing the grammar drills or studying a list of connectors or working with a teacher to improve your writing, for example. That doesn't have to be all the time, but you should see yourself as a lifelong learner in the sense that you might be working hours a day, but there's still opportunities to improve. You might ask someone that you work with who has better English or who is a native speaker, if you notice any big mistakes I make, could you correct those? Or you might, if you notice you're watching different TV series or reading a book and there's a lot of vocabulary that you're missing, it's still a good idea to try to gather that up and use a spaced repetition system to be studying those words so that you never forget them, you make them a part of your active speech. And in the case of the person who sent this question, for example, your English might be good for where you're at right now, but maybe someday you want to change your job and then what you're using now won't be enough. So you might also want to just think a little bit long term, what are going to be your needs with your English?
You hit the nail right on the head, I think, because it's about lifelong learning. Maybe at certain points in your life as an English learner or language learner for that matter, you will study more than other periods of your life. But even in those periods when you're not studying so much, there is always something to improve. There's always something to be more deliberate about. Just to give you guys an example, those of you who are listening to us and watching us, I have been speaking English for 20 years. You know, I've been at this for a long time. Ethan is a language learner. He has learned multiple languages. And you know what, guys? One thing that both of us have been very deliberate about recently in our communication here is using less filler words. The filler words are, you know, yeah, you know. So even at this stage in our lives as language learners, right, Ethan, we are still being deliberate with one aspect of our communication. So it never stops. Maybe you are more intense with your studies at some point here and there, but it never stops. The learning, the studying should never stop. That's the right answer, I think.
Very well said. So this has been a heavy topic. Hopefully you all have gotten a gleam of some wisdom that will be helpful for determining whether you should be studying more and what might be helpful for you to learn, what sorts of objectives you want to achieve with your English, maybe going back to studying for a proper exam and getting a certification.
Hey, thanks for learning with us. Did you enjoy this clip? Awesome. Know that the full lesson is available exclusively on the Real Life English app. So if you want to have the full experience, make sure you download and listen to the lesson over there. Download the Real Life English app and I'll see you there.